Hey everyone, it's Kristen from k.becca, and today I'll be sharing my results from testing the Fine Tip Foil Quill with a number of different brands of foil. In this video, the results are just for the Fine Tip, but I do have another video coming soon with my results for all of the same foil brands with the Standard Tip. The results do vary a little bit from the Fine Tip to the Standard Tip, so be sure to check out the upcoming video if you have or are thinking about purchasing the Standard Tip. The designs that I used for testing are the same ones that I used in my initial testing video, and you can check that out at the link that should be popping up right about now. I used 2 single-line sketch designs, plus a cut file with an internal offset sketch fill, and a design with one of the sketch edges applied from the sketch panel in Silhouette Studio. I'll be testing each brand of foil on both white and black cardstock, and the cardstock that I'm using is the Recollections brand 65-pound cardstock from Michaels, so it's not an expensive or super thick cardstock. For each brand of foil that I tested, I cut a piece large enough to cover the cardstock, then taped it to the mat on all 4 sides. The foil quill should be allowed to heat up for at least 5 minutes for best results, and after mine was heated and ready to go, I loaded the mat with the cardstock and foil into the Silhouette Cameo and sent the files to the machine for foiling. I won't make you sit through this process for each of the foils because that would be super long and boring, so let's get to the results. Unless otherwise mentioned, I used the default sketch settings in Silhouette Studio to get these results, and those settings are a speed of 10, a force of 18, and a single pass. I'll also have photos of the results over on my blog, and the link to the post is in the description area below the video if you're watching on YouTube. First up is the Foil Quill brand foil, which will act as our control since it's the foil that's designed to be used with the foil quill. Results with the single-line sketch style designs on the white cardstock are excellent, very solid and crisp lines. On the filled design, you can definitely see some spotty areas in the foil coverage, so it's not fantastic, but it's not too bad. And the sketch heart design is pretty solid too. Some foil is missing here on the left side of the birthday phrase, but that's completely my fault because I accidentally taped over that area. So after this, I cut a piece of the foil quill tape in half and used that on the left side of the foil so as not to tape over any parts of the design. Results for the Foil Quill brand foil on the black cardstock are also excellent. The foil really stands out against the dark background, which really takes everything up a notch. The single line designs look amazing, very crisp and solid lines, and the filled design again has some spotty areas where there's no foil, but it does look a little bit more solid on the black cardstock. Next up is the Spellbinders Glimmer Foil. This is also a heat transfer foil and is designed to be used with the Glimmer hot foil system. I purchased this variety pack, which comes with 4 foil colors, including shiny gold and silver and matte gold and silver foils. Each roll is 5 inches wide by 15 feet long, so they're an inch narrower than the Foil Quill brand foil, which is 6 inches wide. I tested with the shiny gold foil from the pack, and on the white cardstock, the results are excellent, definitely on par with the results with the Foil Quill foil. The single line designs are solid and crisp with really no spotty areas, and the filled design does have some spotty areas, so it's not perfect, but it's not too bad either. On the black cardstock, the Glimmer foil also gives fantastic results. The single line designs are pretty much perfect, very solid and crisp, and I actually think that this foil did a better job with the filled design than the Foil Quill brand foil did. You can still see the texture of the quill tip, but these are very good results with just a little bit of spotty coverage here and there. Next up is the Gemini brand foil by Crafter's Companion. This is another heat transfer type foil and is designed to be used with the Gemini Foilpress machine. It's 4.96 inches wide and comes in 2 different types. The papercraft type has a purple tab on the packaging, and the multi-surface has a lighter purpley pink watercolor looking tab. I tested the papercraft type Gemini foil first, and on the white cardstock, the single line designs have a slightly weathered appearance, so the lines are less crisp and the foil coverage is a little bit spotty. The filled shape has a more noticeable weathered appearance as well. You can see that there are a lot of areas that don't have good foil coverage, so if you're going for a more weathered look, this foil would be a good choice. On the black cardstock, the appearance is less weathered and more solid looking. On the single line designs, the Gemini papercraft foil is pretty darn good, and the coverage in the filled design is still spotty, but definitely less weathered looking than on the white cardstock. Overall, the Gemini papercraft foil results were noticeably weathered looking and definitely not as solid or crisp as the results with either the Foil Quill brand or Spellbinders Glimmer Foils. Up next is the Gemini multi-surface foil, and the results are noticeably better than with the Gemini papercraft foil. The single line designs look much more solidly foiled, and the details are noticeably more crisp. As with the other foils, the solid fill shape does have some areas where the foil coverage is spotty, but it's not too bad. On the black cardstock, the results are amazing, right up there with the Foil Quill and Glimmer foils. The single line designs are very solid and crisp, and out of all of the foils that I tested, I think that the Gemini multi-surface foil had the most solid coverage in the filled shape. Again, you can see the texture from the tip in the fill area, but the foil coverage is really solid. Based on these results, I definitely recommend the Gemini multi-surface foil over the papercraft foil if you're looking for a crisp and solidly foiled look. Next up is the Mink foil, and this foil is an adhesive/toner transfer foil, so it's different than the other foils that we've tried so far, since the others have been heat transfer foils, and while you can and often do use heat in the form of a laminator or Mink machine to transfer the Mink foil to a design, it adheres because the toner from the print melts and sticks to the foil. The heat part is just a necessary step to get there. With the default sketch settings in Silhouette Studio, the results are pretty spotty and very weathered looking. Lots of areas where there's little to no foil coverage, especially in the single line designs. The filled shape is pretty weathered looking as well. I decided to try again with different settings, so I lowered the speed to 8, bumped the force up to 22, and did 2 passes. And you can see here that changing those settings really made a difference. Upping the force a little bit and doing 2 passes made for much more solid results, especially on the single line designs. And doing the second pass also made the debossed effect on the paper a little bit more pronounced, so if you run your fingers over the design, it has a bit more texture than designs done with a single pass. The filled shape was looking pretty good, but you can see some darker, almost gray looking areas in different parts of the design, and what happened here is that the foil broke. Mink foil is on the more delicate side, and I think that the heat and the fine tip acted almost like a knife that sliced through the foil on the second pass. So just a heads up to be careful with upping the force and or doing 2 passes with this foil, and actually probably some of the others too. You may run into issues with the foil breaking or being sliced. The foil was fine on the single line designs on the white cardstock, but it did break on the second pass on one of the single line designs on the black cardstock, so I paused the machine and adjusted the force back down to 18 and continued with the rest of the design without a problem. The results for the single line designs on the black cardstock are somewhat weathered looking, but the results for the filled shape are actually pretty darn good. The foil coverage is pretty solid. Okay, next up is the Thermoweb Deco Foil, and like the Mink foil, this is also an adhesive/toner transfer type foil, not a heat transfer foil. It usually comes in little plastic tubes, but for some of the foil colors like gold and rose gold, you can also purchase these larger packages with 20 sheets. I left the settings the same as the ones that I used to get better results with the Mink foil, so a speed of 8, force of 18, and 2 passes. But unfortunately, this foil really didn't transfer much at all. You can see small little bits of foil on the cardstock here and there, but based on these results, this foil does not work if you try to use it as a heat transfer foil. I also tested the Gina K Fancy Foil and Brutus Monroe branded Deco Foil, both of which are also manufactured by Thermoweb. I used the same settings as with the regular Deco Foil and the results were the same. No transfer or just bits here and there. Next up are the Silhouette Transfer Foil sheets, which come in packages of 6 8.5 by 11 sheets. These are pressure transfer sheets, so they're different than any of the foils tested so far. They're designed to use with the embossing tools for the Silhouette Curio machines, and I wanted to try them out with the Foil Quill because the tips are much finer than the Curio embossing tool tips, and also because I love that this foil is very slightly tacky and doesn't have to be taped down on the mat. You just peel the backer paper off, stick the piece down onto the cardstock, load it into the machine, and go. When you peel the foil off, there will be excess foil that sticks to the design, so you need to use a piece of low-tack tape like painter's tape to remove the excess bits of foil. And unfortunately, these results weren't very solid. Too much extra foil still sticking around in some areas where there's no foil at all. Now, if We Are Memory Keepers could come up with a hybrid between this and the Foil Quill brand foil, we'd really be talking, because we'd be able to get amazing foiled results without having to tape the foil to the mat. The final foil that I tested is the We Are Memory Keepers Heatwave foil, and this was the foil that was designed to be used with the Heatwave handheld heat tool that We Are Memory Keepers released a few years back. It was sort of the prototype for the foil quill. So I thought that some of you might still have some of this foil hanging around in your craft supplies and wanted to test it out. It's also a heat transfer foil, so I had high hopes that it would work well. The foil sheets are only 4 by 6 inches, so I wasn't able to foil all of the designs, but you can see how solid the results are on the designs that I was able to foil. The results on the single line designs are excellent, very solid and right up there with the Foil Quill brand foil and Glimmer Foil results. The solid fill shape does have some spotty areas, but that's also on par with most of the other foils that I tested. The Heatwave foil also did extremely well on the black cardstock. Very solid and crisp detail, just awesome on the single line designs. And the results with the filled shape are also pretty good, just a couple of small areas with spotty foil coverage. So based on all of the test results from the different foils, the foils that I would definitely recommend for use with the Foil Quill are the Foil Quill brand foil, of course, but also the Spellbinders Glimmer Foil and the Gemini Multi-Surface Foil, as well as the We Are Memory Keepers Heatwave foil if you have some of that hanging around. All of these are heat transfer type foils, so it makes sense that they would work best with a heat tool like the Foil Quill. Not a bad showing from the Mink brand foil either, especially since it's not actually a heat transfer foil. You'll have to experiment with your settings to see what gives you the best results, and you may very well have to do 2 passes to get the best results with this foil. Just be aware that you could run into issues with the foil tearing or breaking, but if it stays in one piece, the results are pretty darn good. You can find a full list of supplies used in this video in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have another video coming soon where I'll be testing out the exact same foils with the Standard Tip Foil Quill. I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and if it has, I'd really appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.